Hi, friends. In our time together today, I want to do a couple of things. When I talked about maintaining and breaking in a wood whistle, I don't feel like I did a good job demonstrating how to oil a wood whistle, and I want to do that with my iVolga Low D. Secondly, a good friend in the community, Mach C1234 Golf. That's a clever name for a YouTube channel. Wow, this friend's been with me since, I'll bet about since I started playing. So, and been very helpful, engaged member of the community. Thank you so much. So, it's great to develop friendships over time with each other, isn't it? Anyway, this good friend said, I have an iVolga Low D and mine played better after the initial oiling. Because, and I did notice this, and our friend didn't say this, but this is my comment. I noticed that the wood inside it's not the hardest wood. And so the wood's not as like baby soft smooth on the inside, and so some of the sound is not going to vibrate as well. And so I think the some life needs to be placed into the wood. That's not a knock against the iVolga. That is simply a comment, the reality of wood, and we need to bear that in mind. So what I'm going to do today, we're going to do two things. I'm going to oil this beautiful iVolga Low D, and then I'm going to let it sit for a bit. Pause the video. I'm going to come back after this thing is all nicely dried up, and I'm going to play it. And I'll let you know what I think of the differences. So, first thing we're going to do, remember the iVolga is a tunable Low D. Take it apart very easily. Couple of things I've said about a wood whistle. You don't want to get any oil on the block. That means here at the head, down here in the tone hole. You don't want to get oil on the blade. So be careful oiling this area, and be careful when you're drawing up in and when you're pulling out. So what I have for the process is this is a flute cleaning rod. This one, as I said before, this is plastic. Get plastic or wood, not metal, for your wood whistle. And I have some pure almond oil here. Now I don't want to get this soaking wet, but I'm going to get some oil. Oh dear, that's pretty wet. I'm going to get some oil on my cloth. This is a microfiber cloth. I don't want it to get it drippy wet, but I got a good bit on there. I'm going to wipe a bit off just by rolling it on the glass. All right. Now, I'm going to take this, the rod, the oily rag, and I'm going to push this up in there, holding it over that little ramekin I had that has the oil in it. And that way I'm going to just draw this up and back a couple times. Push that up in. A little bit of oil's dripping out. That's good. Turn it over, because this didn't go all the way through, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm doing the same from the other end. Push it in a couple of times. Draw it back out. I'm going to set this piece of the body down. I'm going to grab the head joint, and I'm going to do the same, being careful not to push the rod too far up in. So I'm paying a lot of attention up here. And when I see the tip of this plastic start to protrude up into being visible in the airway, that is when I'm stopping. I'm not letting even the plastic touch the block. Now I'm going to take the cloth off, set this down. Okay, and I'm going to set the head joint standing on end in case there's any drippy oil in there. Then I'm going to take the cloth, the same cloth, And I don't need to wipe too much up in here at where it joins together, maybe just a little there. And I'm gonna just put some on the outside. You don't really need to oil the outside as much. It's the inside. I'm doing a bit up around, being careful of the blade. Get the body some there. All right. Now I'm going to do a cloth a couple of times. I've got this nifty, more absorbent cloth, and I'm going to wipe the outside off of the whistle. And I'm going to run a pull-through cleaner on here. So now I'll set that down, standing in case there's any drippiness. I'm going to do the same with the head, being careful of the block and the blade. All right, set that down. Now I'm going to stop the video, go over onto my desk and grab my pull-through cloth. Be right back. Now here, you could do a couple of things. I've got this flute pull-through cloth. I'm going to use this on the body. And I've dropped the weighted string in. Let that fall through. And it's good to wipe out any excess oil. All right, now I'm going to go the other way, just because I feel like it. I like to make sure, because the real goal is to just get some oil into the surface of the wood. So I'm going to do that, and I'll set this down. I'll give the outside another little wipe, good little wipe. All right, there we are. And remember, I also talked about making sure you've got the tone holes oiled up. So I've got my cloth, and I should have done this earlier, but I'm just like sticking it in around the tone hole there. All right, did each tone hole. Give it another wipe. Because when you're playing a whistle, you don't want it all wet. So, okay, so I've pulled oil through it, given a little oil on the outside. Now, the head joint, you can't do a pull through. So you could use your cleaning rod, but I like this one I made. If you remember that old video where I made it, and I'll stick a link up. Remember, I left this sloppy at the end. So I'm going to push this up in, and I'm going to pay attention to how far it can go up, and I'm going to spin this around and pull it out. And that should be good enough. And it's not catching any fibers. The wood wasn't really rough, but I just noticed it was a little thirsty. So I've done that. I'm going to let both of these sit out on this cloth. I'm setting the cloth down on a little table I have here. I'm going to set them both upright just to breathe. I'll be back in just, I don't know how long, but to you it'll seem like just a moment. Hi friends, it's tomorrow. Well, you might not have known that unless I told you. And I'm wearing a different shirt. So I've let the iVolga sit. I let the oils soak in. I had oiled the whistle, being careful not to get oil on the block or on the blade at the head, and give it a good oil on the inside. And I did the outside just because it makes it really pretty. It's the inside you're more concerned about. Now the iVolga Low D is treated with oil before sending to you. I believe it's tung oil if I'm not mistaken. But to really help the whistle, it's good to give it a good oil immediately as you're beginning your break-in process. Now, our friend in the community, MacC1234 Golf, is right. Your iVolga will play as a lovely whistle right out of the box, but it will be a much better whistle if you give it a good oil treatment, a couple oil treatments maybe at the start of your break-in process. Remember, follow instructions when oiling and breaking in a wood whistle of any type. That is, oil the whistle well with an oil that's not going to dry into a film. Don't get oil up in the bits of the head because you could damage that. Never get it in the windway. You'll damage that. It'll clog. Get some of the pertinent bits like the finger holes there. Don't get the blade oily. So make sure you get a good oiling on the inside. It doesn't need to be drippy. Wipe it out. Let it sit a little bit. Break in. Make sure you play like 2 to 3 times a day for 10 to 15 minutes a time, and then don't play it anymore that day, and do that for a couple of weeks just to get your whistle accustomed to the temperature of where you're playing, that exchange of moisture, and after a while the whistle will be really happy. So what I want to do is I'm going to play through the Aaron Boat Song and Bonaparte Crossing the Alps, because those are the 2 tunes I played when I introduced the whistle. Now you could go back and listen to my original video, and I'll stick a link here and at the end. But I imagine most folks don't really want to do that. What you want to hear is me saying the whistle plays much more easily. When I got the iVolga, I felt like it was swallowing some of the air and absorbing, no proper word here. So the interior needed to be livened up just a little bit more, and it plays much, much better. So this is another reason why community is so stinking important. It took a friend to say to me, you need to oil that thing. And then I tried that, and wow, I love this whistle so much more now that I followed advice from a community member. And that is one of the reasons I wanted this community, is so that we could help each other. So let me play through these 2 tunes so that you could hear it. Trust me, it plays more easily. Tone's a little richer and deeper. The volume's a little more, simply because I cared for the whistle at the very beginning of my journey with the whistle. So, and then we'll close it out. I'll stand just because I like to. Aaron Boat Song. And I find I can push the whistle more now that I've treated it as I should have when I just got started. Not every wood whistle is going to be like this, but this one is. Let me play through Bonaparte Crossing the Alps so that you could hear that, and I'll not do the repeats in the interest of time for us. liked this whistle before, and I like it a lot better now. If you're looking for a nice wood low D whistle to get started with, I think the iVolga is a great option. I was a little more reserved about that comment when I first introduced the whistle until our good friend in the community said, you need to oil that thing. And I'm glad I listened to the advice from the community because it is a much more delightful whistle. Now, I've already broken it in, but I will continue playing this and I'll oil it another time or two over the next few weeks. And I imagine I'll be even more delighted with the iVolga Low D. So remember, when you receive a wood whistle, remember, treat it properly according to the instructions. Some wooden whistles don't necessarily need you to oil them right away. Some do. Follow the instructions, though. My friends, I do hope this has been helpful for you. Until next time, this is Scott Shade. Happy whistling.